Welcome back to the Michael D. Show. I'm so glad you're here. Our next guest, Dr. Miguel, loves educating children. In fact, he's been doing it for over 20 years as an educator and a superintendent in New Jersey. Dr. Miguel Hernandez, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, congratulations on the book, and we'll say best-selling book, Letters from My Students. We've got Tom Black here with us on the team, and you guys actually had to go back to the drawing board, rip up the first manuscript because of something called the pandemic. Everything changed. I want to get Miguel's perspective first before Tom weighs in. I know this was an amazing process. How do you feel now that it's launching everywhere, Miguel?
Well, it feels great. It feels great that we're finally seeing the finish line. But like you said, our first initial thought was to write something about test scores and student improvement. But then the pandemic really changed the game, and we started talking about different ideas, and we came up with the idea about trying to remind teachers why we're in this profession, and we came up with this concept of letters from our students.
Yeah, it's funny because when Miguel first approached us, he had some incredibly important things to say about how how schools and teachers could improve test scores. And so we were blocking the book out, how it was going to go, whatever. And you're right, we woke up into the pandemic. I mean, we didn't think much about it until all of a sudden they started closing the schools. and then
Yeah.
and then the teachers were going home and teaching from their living rooms. And I remember calling Miguel and saying, we gotta rethink this. And he said, I know, I was thinking the same thing, because nobody, again, it's like what we talked about before, writing books backwards, that our clients, the teachers, were no longer thinking about test scores. They were saying, I've got to teach 20 kids from my living room? I didn't sign up for this. And so it just changed everything that we did about the book.
Well, I love the subtitle. It's called Remembering Why We Teach. Tell me about, Miguel, why are these letters so important, and how is this book motivating educators? Because half of the country is voting for going back to school, half of the country is still staying at home and schooling. Talk to me about the letters.
Right. I believe that the reason why half the country wants to go back to school is because teachers miss, and they're hungry for that connection with students. We got into education to build relationships and to make a difference. And it's hard to do that when you're sitting on a laptop in your living room, and behind your laptop you got the TV on watching ESPN or the cartoons, but it's difficult to make that connection with the kids. And you got 20 little ones in front of you, and teachers miss that. And my whole thought process was this behind this book is that I wanted teachers to remember what they're missing, why they got into education, for those moments that they create that are positive and making a difference in these students.
Wow, wow. Well, we're already getting people that are wanting you to speak on stage and things like that. And that was a big impetus to the book, as Tom and I were talking, is your message really resonates with not only private schools and public schools, but people are there considering education. Talk to me, Tom and Miguel, about these letters and why right now it's so important. What's a big takeaway from the book?
Well, I'll tell you, working with Miguel, number one, is that I always had to determine really quickly whether the client that we're working with, Michael, we talk about this all the time, is authentic or not. Because a lot of people want to write books about things that they really don't even know. They're not authentic with it. They know some head stuff, but it doesn't drive them. And so I realized right away that with Miguel, that he really felt kids. He really felt the classroom. He felt the teachers, and that was important because it meant that we could create something authentic. And so as we began to talk and realize, well, again, who our reader was, we were realizing that we had a number of different readers. One is that, like Miguel said earlier, that a lot of teachers were reconsidering whether they were going to come back again, because it's drained them so much. They like Miguel said, there were no children running up to them in grocery store. There are no teachers running up or kids running up to them in grocery stores and grabbing them around the waist and calling them mommy, by mistake, because they weren't seeing them. There were no children to put coats on. There were no zipping up. There was no boots that were going on. There was no, are you doing okay today? Your shirt's on backwards. How did that happen? All those things are what make up this stuff. And that's all Miguel would talk about. And we realized that in this moment, with that being gone, we were going to see, like we have seen, teachers vanishing, early retirements, people doing something else. And then on the other side of the equation, you had potential teachers thinking, I think I'll switch my major from teaching to business because I don't want to get into that mess. And so Miguel decided that that's the space he wanted to fill. That when all the other stuff is being talked about, that he wanted to be the guy that would come in while everybody's hair's on fire and say, we got to remember why we teach. And we're going to get back to that, so hang on. And I just think he did a great job.
Right. Thank you, Tom. I also want to add to that is that back when this pandemic started, in the news, and all we heard about in the news was about the first responders, the people on the front line, your doctors and your nurses, and all those folks, which they were very critical during these times. However, teachers should have been in there too with that. I believe teachers are also on the front line because they make a difference. If those kids need those teachers, and I think it's important, especially for the social and emotional piece that's coming along with this entire pandemic.
Had a lot of
Hey,
teachers
Miguel,
tell me.
wait, I want to say this before I forget. You and I have to talk over the weekend next week because I heard this morning, again, they were talking about the vaccine stuff and everything. And they were talking about one of the things that's really messing up, that's a back to school thing, is because teachers are not getting vaccines. They're not on the high list. And
right, they're not on the high list.
How's that
right.
possible?
I believe we would be back in school 100% if they were allowed to get their vaccines.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
maybe we need to talk, Michael and Miguel. I think Miguel would be a great spokesman for this, Michael.
Be a great spokesperson. And in fact, I'll be speaking with the owner of the studio here today because he's got lots of connections. But as I'm talking to teachers, Miguel, the feedback I'm getting from the teachers that are working from their living room on their Zoom while they're babysitting their own kids is they're working twice as hard, right? But they're also concerned about the kids that may be missing meals and the kids that that depend on the free breakfast and lunch, and there's a lot of volunteer efforts going into making sure these kids get fed. What do you speak about now when you go on stage, considering the pandemic and now that the book is out? What are some of your main talking points when you're being interviewed and you're getting on stages now virtually?
My main thing is I try to tell teachers to keep the fire in your belly, because we all got into this profession to make a difference, and we come in with a passion for kids and a passion for teaching, and I don't want the pandemic to put that fire out. I tell them, sooner or later this is going to be gone. We'll be back to normal, and you're going to have that fire. The fire got to keep lit. Keep that fire lit and keep making a difference.
Are making a difference.
Michael, I'm going to add on to that. All of us can think through. Classrooms are filled with a lot of teachers who don't really teach. They're filled with a lot of teachers who took it on because they thought it was a logical career opportunity for them. And scattered among those are the teachers who change people's lives. We can remember teachers that we've had over our lifetime. Mr. Hauser, Mrs. Stofa, the teachers who moved us, who touched us, who changed us. And when you talk about the fire, Miguel, those are the teachers that he is speaking to. We can't lose those teachers.
Yeah. And this is what the book's about, Letters from My Students, remembering why we teach. #1 Amazon best-selling book. Go ahead and book. I know you're available to speak, you're available to be interviewed, and you're available to consult. So PTAs, principals, you spent yours as a superintendent, and you're ready to reach out and speak to the media and speak to the teachers associations. And what final words, Miguel, would you have for our listeners today?
Sooner or later, this pandemic will go away. And when that happens, your children will be back in school and they will fall back in line and they will be in the hands of outstanding, passionate teachers. Please be patient. Parents, be patient because your students will be back.
SpeakerMiguelHernandez.com is the website. SpeakerMiguelHernandez.com is the website. Follow Dr. Miguel here, and we will keep you posted everywhere he's speaking and then everything that people are saying about the book. Thanks for joining us today. And Tom, thanks. It's great to have you on with Miguel.
Oh,
and I know, Miguel,
absolutely.
you've got some other interviews lined up. Have a great day, friends, and stay tuned, everyone. And be safe and grab your copy today.
Thank you, Mike.